live. Yeah, 66 degrees in Advance, North by gosh, Carolina this morning, Randy. I'm telling you, man.
Unbelievable.
It's really, really not what I expected, but it's going to be really freaking cold next Monday.
Yeah, we're going to pay for it. I have the feeling, no white Christmas, unless you sprinkled some kind of sugar or something out on your lawn, because it's been 70s and it's been nice. Maybe out of season, but I'll take it. You know what? I'll take it.
Hey everybody, this is on Lunch Conversations of Randy and Teddy. I'll be the Teddy guy, the other guy be the Randy, and Markell is our special guest. We'll tell you about her in a few minutes, but let me introduce myself. Now I hand it off to my buddy and he'll introduce himself and maybe give you some housekeeping tips for the show. Again, I'm Teddy Burriss. It says it right there on the screen. Run a business called Burriss Consulting. We're LinkedIn strategists. We're Google Workspace and Gmail strategists. Love to help people master the use of LinkedIn, and now, as of 2022, how to use Google Workspace and Gmail as business tools. We love doing webinars. We love doing one-on-one coaching, corporate training, and we're all over YouTube and Quora and in the internet. Just Google Teddy Burriss and stand back. It'll freak you out. So, hey, Randy, introduce yourself to our folks, buddy.
Yeah, I hope everybody had a good holiday, good Christmas, and we plow forward into a new year before you know it. But Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries, Northwest North Carolina, based out of Winston-Salem, and I'm the director for our professional center. My job, as you might expect, is to help professionals with a job search. And so whether you find me through LinkedIn or hear about me, I do a lot in the media as well. Teddy, and write a newspaper column every other Sunday in our local paper, and also appear on radio and television and Broadway and movie. No, just kidding about that. But the point is, if you are in a job search or you're thinking, hey, this is the year I need to gear it up, our services are free. We work by appointment. So please reach out to me. Happy to help you. Excited about our guest today, Teddy. So let's get this thing started, because we have questions and this will be a great conversation. Really will be. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. And so our special guest today is also from the West Coast. I'm meeting a lot of great people on the West Coast. Markell has a business called Futures in Motion. And by the way, Markell, when you introduce yourself a little better than I'm doing, I would love for you to tell me what that means. I think I do know what it means, but I'd like for you to share it. But Markell's a career coach, job search professional, helping people, establish themselves as professionals and to grow their careers. And the conversation we're going to have today is all about create a career you love. So Markell, introduce yourself to our audience and touch on what is Futures in Motion? Why did you come up with that name?
Well, when I thank you for having me today. When I was thinking about my company and when I was envisioning what I wanted it to be, I recognized that careers are fluid. Mm-hmm. I love the beach. I've been living by the beach since college. And so for many years, I've lived on the West Coast really close to the beach. And so the imagery of the ocean waves as, always moving and always new. So I incorporated that into my logo and into my business name, Futures in Motion. So the logo comes from that. The color, palette comes from the ocean. I love the ocean. I love the beach. So that's where that came from. And then how that, connects with the actual work that I do, as a career counselor and a job search coach, I work with people across the spectrum of their careers. And so from the beginning, emerging through mid-career, through what do I want to do when I retire? And I've experienced most of those stages myself. And I love working with people who have faced significant challenges, whether they're career related or personal. Perhaps they've lost someone that's really important to them, a close family member, a spouse. They've faced a medical diagnosis, had to work through that. Maybe they've lost a job and they have to figure out what to do next. And so the common thread of the clients that I work with is that they're seeking greater satisfaction and meaning in their lives. And they come to me for my help in doing that. We share some things in common in terms of life challenges. And I help them to redefine what it is that is important to do to them, what matters most to them, reimagine what's possible for them in their careers, rebuild their confidence, and figure out a way to combine all the things that mean something to them into a way to make a living.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always ask the why question. So you've touched on sort of what you do and the passion you have for it. So let's turn back to page one. Was there an instance or a series of events or something? What was it that helped to focus you and motivate you to pursue what you do?
Initially, it was really just my desire for autonomy and independence when I started my business many years ago. But along the way, as all of you, I'm sure, can recognize, you hit bumps along the way. You hit obstacles. Life isn't smooth sailing. And then several years ago, almost 10 years ago now, I hit a series of significant life challenges. And what one of the things that anchored me during that time was my faith, but the other was that I had been on my career path as I defined it on my own terms. And so I could look back and say I didn't have to make such compromises and along the way, and my career was satisfying to me and I was on the right path. And so I was so grateful for that. And moving forward, then I said, you know what? Everyone deserves to have a career that brings them joy, that supports their lifestyle, so that even amongst all of the different challenges, their career isn't the one, the one that holds them back. And so I channeled my process of how I had to rebuild my life, reestablish my professional identity, redirect my career, all of that into the work that I do now. So I'm very passionate about it. All the materials that I've created, my programs, my coaching, all come from my personal experiences. And it's so satisfying to me when I help other people and I navigate through that and they get this like, oh, wow, it's possible. Wow, it's possible.
Wow, very cool. Hey, by the way, just, I'm going to turn it to Teddy to kind of get started with. We've got a number of great topics we want to cover today, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. I'll keep an eye on the chat box. So if you are, we have 11,000 people now. So
yeah, Randy, it's a big crowd. I just hope you can manage this, buddy.
I better talk louder. It's a big crowd. So just so you know, if you're watching and you have a question or comment for Markell, please put that in the chat box. I'll keep an eye on that. Let us know where you're watching from and what you're having for lunch. I think lunch is on Teddy this week. So if you're not dining already, let us know. And I'm sure Teddy will, send an Uber Eats or whatever your way. Am I kidding? Yeah. Okay. I got it. All right. Well, Teddy, take it away, man. We got a lot of turf to cover today.
So Markell, before we start talking about the talking points that I have listed, I wanted to talk with you about. I just want to acknowledge the fact that you've already told me that you are a Rice Krispie treats lady. And you just told me that you live very close to the beach. Now, after the show, I will ask you for the address so I can show up and say hello and get some of those Rice Krispie treats and eat them on the beach. So anyway, put the satire aside, people make career changes, but often they have challenges to overcome for them to go want to make those, so to achieve those career changes. So what's some of the biggest challenges that you see people have to make that first step?
Well, you're right. There are a lot of challenges that people might encounter. I think the biggest challenge that people face when they're making a career change is just being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Being overwhelmed by the whole entire process. They don't know what they want. And so it feels like they have to do a lot of different things to make a change. And they feel like they're pulled in a million different directions. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to start. And they just are overwhelmed by what they think needs to happen to get from here to where they want to be.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think, I'm saying let's talk about Teddy. I had that same challenge with lots of stuff I want to do. Where do I start? What's the very first step to do? And, often when you discover what that is, then it makes it easier to make that next step. And one of the things that I found, Markell, is a great way to uncover what's that first step is to not pretend I can come up with the answer myself. To reach out to someone and get some guidance. which is, I'm certain, one of the things that you help your clients with on a regular basis, to have that an ideation conversation, I call it.
Mhm.
So
Community is really important, or getting support, I think, is a critical piece of this equation. And we don't have all the answers. We don't
Yeah.
even have a lot of answers, really, but in talking with other people and hearing from other people, it can help to get that creativity going. And in fact, one of the initial programs that I like to start with my clients is my Career Visioning 101. And that is about community, and it is about that ideation with other people and with support. And so it's really simple, where you can just answer basic questions. If you could teach anybody anything, what would that be? And just start thinking about your career, your life, your interests in a different way with other people.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the challenges that, and when you and I were talking a while back, one of the challenges that you raised is the fear of the unknown. So I make that first step, and I want to make sure my foot lands somewhere safe, or lands somewhere that's not full of crocodiles or lions and tigers and bears.
Oh my.
Yeah. How do we help people overcome that fear?
Fear, gosh, fear is a big thing, because it's there all the time. It's always present. And what I've discovered is that I don't think that fear ever really goes away. So trying to, get rid of the fear before you move forward is probably not the most effective, because it's not ever going to go away. Even people who appear so confident, that's because they've learned how to take steps forward despite being afraid. On my journey, one of the things that I is like, do it afraid. And I actually took a big risk for me to, go to a conference in another state by myself, not knowing anyone. And for me, that was a really big step. Yeah. So I said, okay, I did that. And that was a step in the right direction. But I think when it comes to careers and, working through that fear of the unknown, it's important to clarify what it is that you want, what your goals are, and to focus on what you can control. So you can control the energy you put into defining your goals through coaching, through career counseling, career assessments, getting that support. And then you can control your mindset. And you can control your mindset in a variety of different ways. My journaling is important. I think nutrition, meditation, exercise. People talked about all this when I was going through my challenges and having to rebuild my life. People talked a lot about mindset, and they talked about all these different activities. And honestly, I'm like, I didn't believe them, but I got so desperate for answers, and I got so desperate for relief. I said, let me just try it. And I did. And I said, wow, much to my surprise, I'm like, wow, these things actually do work. They started building my confidence. They started encouraging me. I started seeing possibilities where I used to see obstacles. And so focusing on, your energy on defining your goals and then controlling your mindset.
Yeah.
Just an observation. And I think back to when I was a kid, when I had hair a long time ago. And this was back when, again, a long time ago, when it was more traditional to stay at the same employer for most of your career, or certainly stay in the same field for most of your career. And I remember there was I kind of fell into radio because it was a recession and I had a nice voice and I could do it. And so it kind of fell into that. But I remember thinking at that time, I'm thinking, man, that's a big decision, because I've got another 40 years plus to work. Am I making the right decision? And so, and making no decision is a decision.
Yeah.
And so I just remember that, you bringing up old the stories in my head that would go through my mind as I thought, am I doing the right thing here? And I think as we get older, and we've certainly experienced career changes, we know it's not necessarily going to kill us. We may make a bad decision but at least we hopefully go in with our eyes open and ask good questions. But yeah, you make a great point. It's something that affects all ages to varying degrees, really does.
And I'll offer that for me in 2000, maybe closer to 2005, Yeah, like close to 2005. I went and studied an old dead guy by the name of Dale Carnegie. And everybody knows about the book he wrote, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I didn't just read the book, I studied the book. I think it was a 14-week course. But there's another book that Dale Carnegie wrote that most people don't know about. It's How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Now, that book changed my life in significant ways, because that book gave me the desire and the tools that I needed to take that big step and go start this huge business that I have. That, day one, Randy may remember, day one and all the way through day 6 months, there was no income. And I'm like, but I kept moving forward because I figured out how to overcome the fear.
What you both raise is really important because, I went through the traditional path. I went to college, find a job and try to do that. And, I've quickly discovered that the reality for me of, one job for the rest of my working life wasn't going to be the case for me. I didn't have the constitution for that, if you will. And so I've been in the career development space for most of my career, but calling myself a career counselor is one thing, but I really refer to myself as a career practitioner. And that allowed me to have a lot more sense of mobility within my career. So allowed me to become an author and a speaker and do many different things, consulting and curriculum design and development. And it allowed me to envision my career a lot differently than the prescribed, linear path that I initially thought that I had to follow. And so many of the clients that I work with are similar. They are reconsidering that linear career path and wanting to open up, maybe a wider berth of opportunities for themselves. But that tension between this is what I'm supposed to do, but this is what I want to do is what we have to work through.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Hey, you touched on this a little bit. Mindset. I mean, and you said yourself out loud, Markell, you're like, that's poppycock, until you went and tried something. Talk about mindset a little bit more and why that is important to help us build confidence to achieve.
Well, what I discovered in my life is that we all know what to do, right? And if we don't know what to do, we have the internet and we can search really quickly and find a million things to do to address pretty much any problem that we have. So it's not about, I don't really know what to do, but it's about, do I have the confidence to actually act on my behalf and act in my best interest? And so that's why I think mindset is really important. And if you can master your mindset, then you can really, achieve more of your goals. And your goals meaning satisfaction and having confidence. And I tried it for myself. And for me, it was a combination of different things: journaling, meditation. I focused on my overall health and well-being with nutrition and exercise and getting plenty of sleep, spending time with my friends and having fun, hobbies. All of those things that don't feel like work, that was the real work. And, something, to share with you that I've shared with you, Teddy, is that I'm a brain tumor survivor. And so when I was diagnosed with a brain tumor and, on my path to, getting that treated, there wasn't anything that I could do but to focus on my mindset.
Yeah.
So that I could go into that experience in my recovery in the best way possible. So that was an opportunity for me to really learn about the value of a positive mindset. And then that, obviously propelled me forward in my life and career. And I just kept up with those habits.
Yeah.
Can we dive into this topic a little deeper? You mentioned journaling, and I think we've all heard that term, but could you define that and what does it like? What are you trying to accomplish as you do your journaling?
Well, I mean, it depends on the person, and it depends on where you're at. So I've journaled off and on throughout my life, and sometimes it's an outlet for your emotions. You know, we have complex emotions, and some things we don't want to tell other people, and we don't even want to tell a therapist, but we need an outlet for it. So
I'm just kidding. I was giving Teddy
Randy.
Don't share that story, Teddy.
So it's an outlet for
which journal do you want to read? Okay. And I'm Markell, I'm with you. And I'm joking with Randy to say, actually I have writing in this one. I need to figure out what I wrote, but I'm with you. I don't journal, but I know, and I've talked to so many people who say, oh my golly, it is a powerful, powerful tool for you to impact the way you think.
I mean, and journaling doesn't have to be overly formal, and it doesn't have to be in a specific format. It's really a way for you to capture your thoughts about something, so whatever is on your mind at that moment, and you want to process it, maybe you just write it down. It could be bullet points, it could be quotes, it could be Bible scriptures, or philosophical statements. It could just be observations. It doesn't have to be anything big. What I started doing specifically around this was I just was capturing my thoughts, and then I started noticing patterns, and then I started asking myself questions. What do I want from this point forward? What matters most to me? If I were to look 5 years in the future, how do I really want to spend my time? Just random questions, and I would just write my answers to those. And then I've created journaling programs, for my clients, and journals for my clients.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
I know Don had put a comment in here, and there's I think an added pressure on this. Okay, what's my next step as we hit the new year and New Year's resolutions? And I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to be nice to people. Yeah, I'm going to save more money.
Bite off more than you can chew, Randy.
I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to do all these things, and I'm going to get a new career. And that can be overwhelming, and it really can be. And I hope we really touch on the added pressure of the new year, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do it right, because all my friends on Facebook have all these great New Year's resolutions, and I'm going to be left behind. One thing Don talks about, he says he creates resolutions in mid-year, back in July, and works on them, so that for him, when it hits New Year's, it's sort of a halfway, kind of like, we're mid-year. How are we doing? And he says it, for him, removes some of the stress and helps him to be more successful in reaching those goals. Your thoughts on that? I hadn't considered that before.
Like I said, I don't necessarily write out resolutions, and I think I'm at a point in my life and in my career where I really focus more on how I want to experience life moving forward. And so I spend more time focused on answering that question for myself. So how do I want to experience this year? I want to experience, making global connections. I want to experience joy. I want to have peace. So my resolutions are around that, and I lead with that. Randy, you asked me, what's your why? So I focus on that, and then I answer, well, what are the things that I might do to achieve that, maintain that, get more of that. And then I just kind of take action. I mean, we learned a great lesson collectively as a whole entire world, that, the resolutions that you might have going into a year can be gone just like that, due to circumstances beyond your control. And before that, like I mentioned, I had encountered significant life-changing circumstances that were completely out of my control. So I approach New Year's resolutions very differently than I might have in the past.
When we talk about overcoming the fear and achieving, I remember this quote, and I can't remember who said it. It's probably some other smart dead guy. By the way, Randy, there will be a day where I will be a smart dead guy.
Is that when you die or is that when you get smart? It's one of the, it's going to be one of the two. Maybe, hopefully it's both, but I hope it doesn't happen
probably be
soon.
both. Yeah.
I hope it doesn't happen soon because I need you around here.
Yeah, I'm with you. But here's one of the things that I heard this guy say: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yep, you are.
And so, so what I say to myself, if this is really important, I know I can. Now, maybe I don't have all the tools, maybe I don't have all the skills or the smarts to do it, but I know I can do it by using my community and learning. Look, when I started my business in, December 15th, 2010, as a social media strategist, I was not a social media strategist. I know a daggone thing about other than being stupid on Facebook, and I was good at that. Okay. But what I did was I figured out if I really want to be this, and I did, then I need to go study and I need to hang out with people who are smart and do that kind of stuff. And look at me today. I'm dang near a really good social media strategist because I believed I could.
Teddy, that's important. And, along with that is the power of yet, right? So you may not know how to do it right now, but you do have the wherewithal to figure it out.
Yeah.
I was curious about the motivation piece here. And, whether it's sports or other parts of life, it's one thing to know the physical, how to shoot a free throw. It's another thing to mentally be able to focus, to not only put in the practice time, but also to execute when the game is on. It's easy to think about it, but are there tips that you have for keeping your mind in the game, mind straight, and keeping mind, mindset being a positive one? Because we're apt to dwell on negatives, and I think we've touched on that. Your thoughts on the motivation piece and how to stay focused on that?
Two parts to that. If anybody who has played a sport or really, I think a sport, there's the fundamentals, right? So even if you're in the pros, when they take their eye off the ball, they drop it. And that's something that you learn at the very beginning. So any time, any endeavor has a certain foundation of fundamentals. And so don't forget the fundamentals and to continue to invest in the fundamentals. And then as far as habits, motivation is a muscle that you can develop. And in order to keep that muscle strong, you have to attend to it consistently. And so your focus on your journaling or your gratitude or your mental health, your physical health, whatever methods that you use, I think you need to be focused intentionally on that and take consistent action on that. I can use, myself as an example. I keep myself into a positive environment. So we all have social media, and that you can curate the experience that you have on social media. You can curate your experience so that the majority of the inputs that you see are positive, affirming, encouraging.
Or not.
Or you can, if I don't have a problem. I've mentioned this before to people. If I have friends or people that I'm connected with that are negative in my perspective, I just disconnect from them online, and that's okay to do that. So, but I curate the kind of experience that I want to have. I'm not, a Pollyanna or anything like that, but it's very important to me to maintain my motivation and to have a positive outlook. And so I do what I can to create that environment for myself in person as well as online.
Absolutely. Look, your success is based on is impacted by the tribe that you hang out with. And if that tribe is not positive and motivating and encouraging and supportive, if it leans anywhere near the wrong direction, then it's going to pull you down. Well, what's the term that our mama said to us, Randy, when we were little? You lay down with piggies, you're going to come up smelling like them.
Yeah, or fleas and dogs or something like that too. I remember that.
Yeah. So that's all about life, and that's all about how you're going to move your career forward, move your business forward, is to be very purposeful about choosing who you hang out with. Absolutely. So here's another one.
Well, Teddy, we're halfway through the hour.
Let's do that first. So
Yeah.
thank you, Randy, for reminding me. I forgot to look up at the clock. So, hey, thanks for joining us. You're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. I'm the Teddy guy, and the Randy guys over here. Our special guest today is Markell Morris. This show is funded and supported in part by some sponsors. We have one who will start off with us the first of the year. We're really excited about that. We need other sponsors to help us grow your show. So if you know anybody who would want to participate and support this conversation where we're helping people in their careers and their business and their community, please let Randy and I know who that human is that you think we should talk to so we can keep this show growing. We're hitting show number 90 today. Number 90, Randy.
Wow, 90. I know. We started, Markell, just so you know, we started this thing back in April when COVID hit in March of 2020.
Yeah.
We got together by phone and said, hey, we're both stuck at home. What are we going to do about it? We want to have a little fun. And so we did a show together, just the two of us. And then from that week onward, then we said, no, we're going to bring a guest in. So we've had a guest for every other show since then. Yeah. And yeah, we'll be 2 years here in April. So it's just been a lot of fun. It's been a great way to reach out to people and also to keep in contact too. I mean, let's face it, when you're confined to quarters, sometimes it's tough to actually get out and meet people. So it's a good thing all around. So
it's a good
yeah, Teddy,
show.
take it away. Yeah.
We really want to keep it moving, and we're gonna need sponsors to help us, support this this mission. Ray and I both use that word. It's a mission of ours. So, and Markell, thanks for joining us. And the conversation today is all about creating a career you love. And it starts with mindset, and it starts with taking that first step, and it starts with conversations. So let's talk about that. What are one or two really purposeful steps that people can make as they start to define that career that they want?
Well, I encourage people to really give some thought again to how they want to experience their life and career moving forward. So having that, it doesn't have to be fully formed, but allowing yourself to imagine what you want to be, do, and have in your life is an important first step.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to really, intentionally focus and think about this, and to allow yourself to dream about what's possible for you without holding yourself back. Well, I can't do that because of all these, 5 million barriers that are in front of me. But if you could remove all those barriers, how would you want to experience your life and career moving forward? So that's an important, foundation step, is just that envisioning process. And I outline that in my career guide, Create a Career You Love. And then secondly, I would say, looking at what you have working for you to move you closer to that vision. So taking some career assessments or going through a career assessment process where you suss out your skills and your natural strengths and your interests, your values, personality characteristics, and to see what the intersection of all of those might be.
Yeah. One of my daughters, I hope that feedback's not coming back from me, Randy, but one of my daughters, or maybe you don't hear it. So one of my daughters.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I hear it. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
I'll have to fix it. Let me get a hammer out. Let me get back to the story. One of my daughters posted on Facebook this morning that she talked to a young man, and he says, I want to be a YouTuber, but if I can't be a YouTuber, I want to be a CIA agent. And then he said, if I can't be a CIA agent, I want to work for the DMV. Now, she asked this young man, do you know what the DMV is? And he said, no. Now, besides the humor of that story, by the way, my comment back to her was, give that boy a camera and a microphone and let him start creating videos. But the other part of that story is this, and I didn't even think about it until we started talking, Markell. Too often people say, I want to work for the DMV, and they don't even know what that is. Too often they say, I want to be a phlebotomist, and they don't understand what it is. That's a huge problem with people who are pondering their future. They say they want to be, back in 1976, for those of you who don't know, I was a young guy. I said I want to be an air traffic controller. I didn't know any air traffic controllers. And that's a huge problem when you're envisioning that. What are your thoughts in that context?
I agree 100%. And there's a balance, right? There's a balance between thinking and contemplating and then actually taking action to get the reality check. So I move my clients pretty quickly to the active exploration, and I incorporate that into the visioning process. We're great. We have a wonderful resource today, an easy way, to get to people called LinkedIn. It's a great tool, but when people start really thinking about who they already know or who they could easily get to, the possibilities are there. And so if you have an idea about something that you want to do, whether you have a job title or just you've created a description, you can do keyword searches and you can find people who are doing things either exactly or similar to what it is that you want to be doing. And maybe they're doing a different job, but they're in the company that you aspire to work for, or the organization, or maybe they are doing a different job, but they are in the region that you want to work for. There are different ways that you can explore the possibilities, but to, what we've talked about before, your point of community, you have to connect with people in the process, and you don't have to wait till the job search part. You can connect with people early on in your exploration who could be instrumental in helping you define what it is that you want, and as well as open up opportunities down the line.
And do you find that in terms of trying to gather that information, do you find that people are more open to that these days now that COVID has kind of put everybody, we're all in this together kind of a thing? Or do you still find it's a little awkward? How do you get to pick people's brains, especially if you don't necessarily know who they are?
You ask.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot
do you find
of time,
people are more open to providing that now, or any different from maybe 5-10 years ago?
I can't speak to that, but
Okay.
I think that if you don't ask, you're not going to ever get a response. And I think that what I have learned and what I encourage my clients to understand is that there are going to be people who don't have time for you. There are going to be people who are just busy or not interested in helping, but then there are others who are waiting for somebody to contact them. And so you just give yourself the opportunity to get to that yes by reaching out. It's not personal if someone says yes or no. It's alignment. You got them at the right time, with the right request, and they had some time and do it. Another way to make it easier is through your affiliations. And so if you sit down and I have a whole exercise on mapping your network, if you start actually thinking about the people that you already know, you probably have 20 people right away that you can reach out to for help to make connections to others. And so the person doesn't have to be the person, but their brother could be, or their cousin could be, or their friend could be. You just really don't know until you give yourself the opportunity to imagine the possibilities. And I find that people reach out to me all the time. I have found that people are relatively open to having a brief conversation with someone. The tip I have for job seekers or those who are exploring is not to rely on one person to answer all of the questions that you have about something. Maybe one question for that 15-minute conversation, maybe not 20 questions for that one 15-minute conversation. And so if you incorporate building community into your strategy for exploring the possibilities, then there's less pressure on you and them to get everything done in one conversation.
Yeah. And Dean threw out that your net worth is your network. And I'm with him. I mean, my most important asset in my life, not philosophy or belief, but my asset is my network. I mean, everything I get in life somehow or other comes through my network. And by the way, Dean also asked work for DMV. And, you know, one of the things I could tell this young man who said, you know, as not knowing what he was saying, if he really wanted to work for DMV, I know people who work for the DMV. I personally know people who have DMV offices. And so that's how you get these conversations. Find people you know who know people you want to know. So yeah, Dean, if you want a job with the DMV, I can help you out too, buddy. So,
I know last week we had Juan Abreu on here. He was a guest, and he is an in-house recruiter for a local cable company. And so we talked that very topic about the whole networking piece, and people are more apt to give you the time of day or more apt to consider you for a job that you've applied for if somebody they already know has introduced you to them. He said it's huge. And it sounds like, if I'm hearing you right too, it's also huge when it comes to informational interviewing, networking. So I think we're all on the same page with that. Teddy, was there, you were going to throw something in there, I think, weren't you?
Yeah, Dean also, I know Randy's not paying attention to Q&A, buddy. He said he's only going to monitor chat. So.
In full disclosure, I'm watching the chat over here, and I don't see Dean with anything in here. And then he starts in with Dean. So you know what? Because I'm on top of things, only 10 minutes late, I did go to the Q&A. Now there are 4 things in there. So Dean, no, you need to go to the chat box, or I'm going to put you in Zoom jail for 5 minutes. I'm going to put you in Zoom jail. Yeah. I don't know what that is. I just made it up. But anyway,
Anyway, yeah, Dean, thanks for asking questions. Drop them in the chat so Randy can manage that, man.
Yeah, that'll be good. Thanks.
But, you know, the other thing, and I like the idea of exploration, you know, the how to prepare, how to move forward. You got to explore. And it's important to be able to, you know, and ask questions of other people and get introduced to other people so you can find these ideas. Look, I didn't have a freaking clue what a social media strategist was until I met a marketing professional who did social media. And I'm like, tell me more about what this is all about. And that's really piqued my interest and got me into this space I'm in. And, you know, I would wager that Markell or you and Randy, you both can relate to that in some ways or another. You got to know people who, I call it, play in the sandbox, the toys that you want to play with. And you're like, I want to play there. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
And I agree. And also not to get so caught up on job titles because they're just words that people use to describe what they do, and what people do under those job titles can vary widely. And I think it's important to have those, identify those job titles, but also to really get some clarity about what the job entails that you would enjoy doing. So the components or the elements of the job, and it could be called X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. I refer to job titles is what the HR department wants to call you. And you know, often that has no meaningful value to anyone else.
When I worked in at a 4-year university in career services, my HR called me a student affairs officer.
Yeah, aren't you not supposed to have affairs with students in colleges? I'm totally confused, Markell. As I hear your point about the title didn't match what you did. Yeah. So, you know, we talked a little bit about tools, and LinkedIn was a tool that you mentioned. And, you know, what other tools do you think people should, you know, who want to have a career change or want to create a business or want to do something way different? What are some other tools? And I think they might align with research and communications. What are some other tools that you can think of that we should be looking at or consider using?
I mean, I guess I'm pretty simple. Other tools and resources are just people, and you know, there are there are lots of different resources. Randy, you know, works with the Goodwill Industries, and there are employment and training organizations in every state. If you attended college, you have your alumni association. Twitter is a great place for people to gather. People connect with others on Instagram. You know, Facebook still has a lot of value. I mean, there are a lot of online tools. I think before going to the tools, have a sense of what it is that you're looking for. What questions are you trying to get answered and what information are you seeking? I'm part of my professional community. So I'm part of the California Career Development Association. I'm a past president and currently an officer on the board. And our board members are available for people to conduct informational interviews with, part of the National Association. So there are an infinite number of resources and tools available to people to use that are easily accessible.
Yep. Dean had a couple of questions in the chat, by the way. So
Dean,
thank
you
Dean.
resurrected yourself.
Thank you, Dean. I will release you from Zoom prison. The question is regarding informational interviewing. Do you find it more effective, less effective, or about the same, I guess, whether you do it face-to-face or whether it's through a phone or Zoom or something like that? Does that matter?
I don't think so. I think it's important not to get hung up on the method, but to do it. And part of it may just be a individual's preference or comfort level, but you can, reach out to people and you can offer to meet in person or offer to meet online. You can give them the choice and they can,
Sure.
maybe go from there.
So Dean has a follow-up question, and it's essentially this. All right, so you've agreed to talk with me. I guess part of that is in laying the groundwork and what the expectations of this chat will be, because you know that I know that you know that I know that I need a job, and you see, and I don't want to be a beggar and grovel and have you turn me down and say I don't know of any jobs. So, is there a phrase or two or three or the approach so that you don't come across as a desperate job hunter person, but more from a exchange of information and ideas standpoint? Any magic bullet that you found that tends to work pretty well for that?
Well, two things come to mind as it relates to informational interviewing as a strategy. One is alignment. So if you need a job and the person that you're talking to doesn't have access to jobs, then that's going to be a different conversation. And also, as I'm sure both of you know, that job search and career changes is a long game. It takes a lot of patience. And so if you are incorporating this into a strategy, then everything's not riding on that one encounter. And so you give yourself time to establish your reputation and establish, your relationships with people so that when it's aligned, then you can go for that ask. So it's less transactional at every encounter, but over time you've built up the capital to be able to ask that question. And then also, Randy, like you were mentioning, when you're referred by someone who's a mutual connection. I've had clients who've done this, they're actively in a job search, they've focused, they know they want to work with this company, they have a target, what have you, and they're talking with a friend or someone, and it comes up and the friend says, oh, I know this person who works there, I'll put you in touch. And then that's the right time they already know you're looking for a job specifically at that company, and they can help you if they're in the position to be able to do that. But this is because the relationship has been built over time.
Yeah. And I'm with you, Markell. I have two philosophies in that context of how to overcome this perception that I'm here to ask you for a job. Number one is I don't use the phrase informational interview. That is so tightly wound around job search that the moment I ask you for an informational interview, you're going to immediately perceive that I'm there to ask about a job in your business. So that's number one. I call it a conversation. I just like to have 10 minutes to chat with you because you may have some ideas that I haven't considered. And here's the second thing. I'm going to be very purposeful about telling Randy, who works for Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina, when I'm there for a quote unquote informational interview that I call a chat, I'm going to say to him very clearly, Randy, I just want you to know, buddy, I'm going to put you at ease. I am not here to ask you for a job unless you have one in your pocket right now that you want to share with me. I'm here because I believe, again, you have ideas that I haven't thought about that can help me, and you may know somebody I need to meet. Are you good with that? I mean,
Yep.
that just takes all the I believe that takes all the pressure off of Randy.
Absolutely. If that's your purpose, I mean, I think you should be straightforward about your purpose. And so if your purpose is to gather information, you can state that. You know, in one of my career guides, I have a sample script, and it's really about getting information from someone who is in the industry who could share some insight. And I like that approach of, you know, I'm here just for information. If you happen to have an opportunity that you'd like to share with me, I'd be open to hearing about it, but that's not my sole purpose. And you're right. I don't know if everybody, you know, has a perception that if someone contacts them for an informational interview, that they're there to ask for a job. But nonetheless, it's important, I think, to put that aside so you can, you know, clear that roadblock right away.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, Randy, anything?
Well, no, not really so much. Just Lisa chimed in basically saying, hey, what you had said a minute ago, Teddy, hey, I'm not here to ask you for a job, but I would like to get some feedback. And I think it's an important part of the job search. I agree with you, Markell. Informational interviewing or conversations, as Teddy said, it's a component. It's not the be all end all, but it's valuable. And it's really valuable too. And I compare stuff to, you know, if I win the lottery, let's say I just won the lottery and I'm sitting on $200 million. Well, guess
all right,
what,
guys, good seeing everybody. Randy and I've got to go.
Markell is my long lost cousin, right? Because I'm sitting on 200 million bucks, and I've got all these new friends and relatives that I had never heard from before who didn't want to give me the time of day when I'm just some dude. But now that I have 200 million bucks, everybody comes to me. And wouldn't it be nice to have established some rapport proactively with people in your target companies, your target industry, so that you're known, liked, and trusted before there's a job opening? Because now it's sort of like, you know, I want to jump on this thing, where instead, if you can do it ahead of time, proactively, again, if Markell wanted to be my best buddy, cousin, whatever, before I became filthy rich, that would matter a whole lot more than if I'm sitting here on $200 million, because now I doubt your motives, or I question your motives. You see where I'm going?
Yes, you might be familiar. This is maybe dating, but you know, Harvey Mackay, you know, dig your well before you're thirsty. And he had an envelope business, and he said, I have a white envelope business. It's a white envelope. They all operate the same, you know. So how do you differentiate your white envelope business from the next white envelope business? And that's through your relationships and your reputation. And so how you approach things and how you treat people.
Just one quick question, and then we're going to probably move to the summary piece. And Dean asked a question about any tips on how you might want to maintain your network.
I think that it's more than one activity, right?
Yeah.
So maintaining your network, I think maintain is the key there. And so again, LinkedIn, and you know, Teddy, you could talk a lot more about this, but is an easy way to maintain at least that network. And people make posts, you know, articles or comments or what have you, and you can comment on that. That's pretty easy. But in outside of that, I'm involved with my professional association, so that gives me an easy way to keep in contact with people regularly. And then I'm in affiliate groups within that. And so I regularly meet with people, you know, on a monthly or every other month basis. And that gives me an opportunity to connect with people. I think curiosity and interest in other people is a driver. And so when you know people and you know about what they're interested in, the projects that they're working on, you can use your calendar and make a note, you know, to check in with them in 3 months. Last time we talked, they said this. And you say, hey, you know, last time we talked, you said you were working on this, how's it going, or what have you. And I think being intentional about keeping in contact with people is something that you can schedule and plan, and then it just becomes natural.
Yeah, I'm with you. Markell, I use the phrase, as far as how to create and develop and nurture the relationships of my network that I may need their help one day. I use the phrase lead with give, because the more often I'm willing to help them, the more likely they're willing to help me. And it's
And
not hard to do.
And giving is, it doesn't mean anything a big deal. I mean, you could just, hey, I came across this article and I thought about you, here, or I recently, met this person. I thought you might want to meet them too here. I mean, it doesn't have to be a big deal, and it could be in the course of your everyday life.
Yeah.
And once you build a habit, it just becomes really natural to you over time. And then you start, it's energy, right? So then you start creating energy and reciprocity in this, and it just becomes so much easier.
Yeah, yeah. Markell, this is good stuff. I really do appreciate you joining us today. Great conversations. And we got just a few minutes left. Do you have one point that you really want to make sure if they didn't hear anything else that you and I and Randy talked about, they never need to forget this one point? What would that be?
It's combined, I would say. I would say just start and give yourself the opportunity to succeed on your terms. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to have any answers. You don't have to do everything all at once. Pick something to do and just do that. And as you start doing that, you'll, other things will come into focus for you. And I think to something that we've talked about, that leaning into community is important in that, but just start and just.
Yep. I like it. I like it. Randy, do you have a story, buddy?
I certainly do. Two things real quick. One is volunteering.
Yeah.
I did some volunteer work at Goodwill, helping job hunters back when I had my own company, doing something along the same lines as what you do, Markell. Not exactly, but in the same vein. And they got a chance to see me in action and so forth. And so I was able to build relationships that ultimately led to them hiring me as a salaried employee. The other one is this, and today I say this all the time: life is a journey, a lot of chapters along the way. And one thing we didn't really touch on today much, we talked about things we want to do and what if in an ideal world in kind of, big sky kind of stuff, and then go figure it out. One thing we didn't touch on is as we age, we kind of check the box on things we know we don't want to do because we've done them. Right. And you don't want to keep making the same mistakes over again. And so I hear that a lot with clients. They say, well, I'm open to something else, but I know I don't want to do this, this, and this. Well, at least we've begun to narrow it down versus I'm a total blank slate. I have no idea. So again, it's a journey, and try to do things with purpose. I guess that would be my thought, is with purpose. And I'll throw it to Teddy to share a story if you're so inclined. And we have
I got a
cool thing next week too. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll make my story short and sweet. Look, when I started, when I started my business in December 15th, 2010, I went on a journey beforehand to have conversations with people about ideas. And Randy may remember that time because I reached out to 120 people. I know who these 120 people are. They're in my teddyburriss@gmail.com calendar. 120 conversations. Didn't know where those conversations were going to go. I didn't tell the people where I wanted the conversation to go. I just asked questions about what, ideas, they all knew that my goal was to start a business. And I said, just want to talk with people about wild ideas that I've never thought about before. And that's how I discovered this thing called a LinkedIn social media strategist, and how I discovered being a YouTuber, and how I discovered being an author and a public speaker. I had no inclination to do those things until I went and had those conversations, because it all starts with a conversation. So that's my story, is that I did this, and you can do it too, because I don't have any magic that anybody else doesn't have. Next week, Markell, again, thank you very much. Appreciate you showing up with us today.
Really enjoy it.
Next week, we have Melissa Dinwiddie on. Melissa is the CEO of a company called Creative Sandbox Solutions. And what she's going to do with us next week for everybody who shows up is she's going to pull people out of the audience, to go out in the audience, rip you out of the chair and put you on stage. And we're going to role play communication skills. We're going to role play conversations. We're going to role play easy conversations and difficult conversations. Something new that we're putting together. Really excited about this idea. So join Randy and I next Wednesday, 11:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'll be the first Wednesday of the year, Randy.
Yep. First new show of the new year, 2022.
Yeah,
Wow.
we won't be
How'd
in the
that
new
happen?
studio yet, whatever that would
Really?
become. So
Let me know when it happens, will you?
yeah, I will. So Markell, again,
Yeah,
thank you very
Markell.
much. Randy, good seeing you. We'll see everybody next week.
All right. Take care.
Bye.